In every shot, there's usually a focal point. Without a focal point, it's not really much of a focus, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But our eyes respond more to contrast, and that's why gorillas have black eyes. Unlike gorillas, humans have a white sclera, and then pupils. And when you look at someone in the eyes, it helps form a better connection. When I look into a gorilla's eyes, I feel nothing. I think it wants to kill me. And our eyes are usually attracted to brighter things, but they can only be brighter things through contrast, or some level of it. And this is why people, when movies and TV were only in black and white, it was possible to make things. But anyways, this video is about focus. And there's a lot of ways that you can emphasize focus in filmmaking. By blurring the background, slowly zooming in on something, providing contrast. So if you're interested in that, subscribe. I got 182 at the time of this recording. And yeah, enjoy. You know, spotlights, brighter things are more attractive to our eye. You know, like the thing with the eyes I was talking about. You could probably figure out all the previously mentioned ones by yourself. But what you didn't know was that this is the first thing you saw before you ever saw anything. This is what babies in the womb see, and they turn to recognize face-like shapes. And that's why I can draw something like this, and you recognize it as a face. And cars and stuff, you look more at the front of a car than any other part of it, at least when you first see it. What grabs your attention? It's the main part. And that's where these focus points should be placed, or emphasized. Focus depends on principles of art and things of the sort, like use of negative space. Take 2001: A Space Odyssey, for example. Now, you could do many things to gain focus. You could put something that fundamentally is confusing, like an optical illusion. So, why do we find something interesting? Well, because it's not boring. We're going to talk about conditioning. Conditioning in a filmmaking, show-making perspective is when you condition someone to know the rules of your story, of your world that you've built in this show, in a story, whatever, you know what I mean, and get used to those. But the most important part of that is that you make them feel comfortable in it. For example, if you're watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Mickey gets a boo-boo and he puts on a band-aid, you're like, oh, all right, Mickey's okay. But if Mickey gets a boo-boo and he starts violently bleeding, then you've played with their sense of comfort. That's the type of thing that would get someone to stand up in their seat. It's also called playing with expectations. Make your audience underestimate so that you can ramp things up and, just make things better, so that it's like a trick that makes them think that whatever they're viewing is better than it actually is. Literally a trick that they use with dogs. And there are many ways that people do this, like with plot twists, or using stereotypes, tropes, and then twisting them, or just straight up or extending a part out so that it makes you start to think and realize that you actually don't know what's going to happen next. This is a technique that anime does a lot. Or you could pull Breaking Bad, and in the first episode, and you can show how good the show does get so that people don't turn it off at the beginning instead. Showing Walter White driving through the desert, full speed in his RV, and then immediately cutting to his family life that happened before. So that the audience will watch until the point that they started with is shown. And even better, it happens in the same episode. So you don't have to watch the second episode to get back onto that cliffhanger. Because for your audience, hooking them in is, obviously it's not too easy, but you really need to hook your viewer in. And the way that you can do this is through Aristotle's poetics. Basically, they're what Aristotle said every good story has. And they are character, thought, diction, spectacle, and song. If you ask any writer or filmmaker, a tip that they'll probably try to give you that the audience is a character as well. But that's not too direct. What they really mean by that is you should keep mind of how the audience feels during a certain scene. How should they feel, and how they actually do feel when actually watching it. And that's how you can revise and change it up. That's what test screenings are for, to see if they feel the right way before the movie comes out. But hopefully they don't leak it. For the sake of keeping this video focused, I'm going to not be talking about these aspects of Aristotle's poetics and keeping it to the 5 parts. But now we get into the more detailed focus of the science of focus. Of course, there's character too. You have to have a clear goal, and causality has to be built into them. We just have to know the character first. They start with literally everything starts with a character study, which is basically a series of events that uncover how a character is, so that later on in the story, it doesn't feel like what the character does comes out of nowhere. And keeping focus in an audience also means that you can't have any mechanical breakdowns in your story, which by that I mean one part of the story doesn't make sense or feels like it comes out of nowhere in a bad way. There's a good way to that, which is called causality. Like if a band of travelers are out traveling and then out of nowhere a boulder hits them, well, it's clearly going to impact their mission. And that's good for a story. It makes it thrilling. Will they even make it to where they're trying to make it? Who knows? The long and short of it is, have good, clear characters, have their ambitions be clear. So yeah, it is causality baked right into it. After that, all you need to do to the character is put something in front of them and they will react accordingly. Like if you put jellyfish in front of SpongeBob. Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight is a good example of this. The second one is catharsis, which means the emotional relief in an audience. But continuing on, maybe our travelers just sort of got the boulder off and they're like, oh, phew, got the boulder off the leg, we're gonna live or whatever, but yeah, you got the idea. And then there's agnorisis. Hold up.
Anagnorisis.
When a character makes a critical discovery, like, oh, watch out, that boulder's about to hit us. Like, oh, we're almost there, we've almost made it to where we're going to go. Like in Shark Boy and Lava Girl, when they say that they're almost there, when they realize they're in a dream, so they get Shark Boy to sing that infamous song to get him to wake up. There's two more of these. Perpetua is a sudden reversal of fortune, like I thought I lost, but actually technically according to the tournament rules, I won. Now, back to the base poetics. Thought. I have never felt more thought while watching something than I have felt while watching The Matrix. Every piece of dialogue in this movie seems like it's asking you a direct question, like to you, the viewer. Especially that red pill, blue pill scene. It uses the word you a lot. For example, in this one piece of dialogue that Morpheus says once Neo meets him in The Matrix. Let me tell you why you are here. You have come because you know something. What you know, you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. Felt that something is wrong with the world. You don't know what, but it's there like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Matrix? Do you want to know what it is? Neo swallows hard and nods. Continue. There are a lot of good focal points in this text, like the use of repetition of the word you, or how he withholds the exact definition of what the Matrix is from Neo when he asks, or how he does the exact opposite thing at the top of the text before this whole mantra, where Neo says he doesn't like the idea that he's not in control of his life, and Morpheus says that he knows exactly what he means. He's leading him on, in a dialogue sense. We're starting a sentence with, let me tell you why you are here. And the uses of you, while also using it with language that lifts you up and then talks down to you in a pattern, back and forth, it keeps the viewer engaged. It's like if I were to say, I am the boss of you, you make your own rules. A good story will keep you focused. I've watched things that have one of these core traits, and they were still good. And the rest were mediocre, but it was still good. I watch Cobra Kai because it's funny. I don't think I really watch it for any other reason than that. It's like The Room. Not as bad as The Room, also, but still bad. But this leads into another one. I guess I've covered two at once. Diction, which basically just means good writing. And then the last one is spectacle and song. And spectacle is like big explosions and Transformers, and song is like when a fire, like really good OST plays. Like that one part in Ants.
Hey everybody, 6:15, time to dance.
They're meant to be used at very emotional moments of the movie. The genre of musicals is literally defined by when emotions reach a peak, music starts playing. And same thing with spectacle. Spectacle's really in everything. It's what stops it from being boring. And the last part is 3 tragic beats, which is like that dumb story chart thing. We all know that. Who cares? You know, beginning, middle, and end. We're not stupid. We're going to skip over that. But I will say 3-act structure is not for every story. It's like there's arcs and some, yeah. Now we focus on the elements of art, like line. We can see this in Horizons, where there's the horizon line, and that type of line, a horizontal line, keeps you looking quite in the middle. Your eyes just naturally go there. Now a vertical line makes you look up and down. You kind of don't know where to look with the horizontal line. Buildings seem weird. That's why skyscrapers that look more like they have a cool roof rather than just abruptly ending seem more satisfying to us. And finally, the diagonal line. You kind of look up and down it over and over again. And this is the power of line, the first element of art. One of the 7. Don't worry, this will be fast. The ones we really want to focus on are shape, color, and form. If we have a guy just standing here, of course he's the focal point. There's nothing else there in the painting, but if we do this, then he's even more of a focal point. The environment is complimenting him. Or are they judging him? Actually, no, they're just complimenting him. And obviously there's ones like texture and shape, I mean, because of the shape and form of him, we can tell that he's a person, and some arrows, maybe they're made of steel, who knows, but we're only using silhouettes here. But one big key thing that I haven't talked about yet is movement. Movement in directing, it's everything. Our eyes are attracted to movement, and beauty as well. So, sorry to some of you. But movement, you see something move out of the corner of your eye, and you think you've seen it. In scenes like this, there's a subject. A subject could be a person or an object, and it really just depends on who or what the camera follows. Directors use these tracking shots, and these can range from a couple of seconds to full-blown hours. Some movies, a couple movies, are completely tracking shots. The Shining, in particular, loves its tracking shots. It's probably the most useful focus tool that you could probably use. The illusion of one thing not moving while the entire background's moving, but the audience obviously perceives it as the other way around. And you get the point, really. So, attention is something you gain by taking advantage of the senses. In order to get a person's attention, I could tap their shoulder, put something in front of them, shout their name, put something up to their nose so they smell it, or if you're really freaky, put something in their mouth. But when the only tool for gaining attention you have is a screen, you can't do all that. And this video has been about that. I hope you've all been focused on this. Thank you for watching, and you just watched a quadzxy special. Don't forget to subscribe.